Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Chris. Today we are doing a walnut nightstand, and we're going to start by cutting a lot of 8/4 walnut. And the reason we chose 8/4 is we are actually going to cut it down into 1-inch wide strips, which you can see here. And we are going to flip them on their side so that when we glue up the panel, it's going to be a 1/4 sawn grain panel. So I'm going to cut the legs here real quick too. I get all my rough cutting done before I start laying out everything. But I'll flip all the pieces on their sides and you'll see the kind of the reveal here in just a moment. This right here are the boards that are specifically for the top panel. So you'll see I lay them all out and try to keep them in order. That way when I go to flip them, you know, the color variation was very minimal if there was going to be any. So I'll try to keep this as organized as possible before I take it over to my bench and try to organize all of it. And I'll cut all the apron pieces to width before I get started organizing. Here I'm flipping them all over onto their sides so you can kind of see what I was going for. We'll flip them all up, glue them all up, and we'll zoom in here in just a second. And right here you can see how all the grain is facing left to right. When we flip it, it's all going to be facing upwards. So we will give this a good squeeze, let it sit overnight, and run it through the drum sander, all that good stuff. And yeah, there you go. That's kind of a good view of it. For panels like this, the drum sander is by far my favorite tool. I don't know why it took me so long to get one of these things, but this makes just life so much easier. Also, I did glue up the aprons, 2 little pieces there, and I'll run them through the drum sander as well. Just keep them nice and clean. Now that we have a lot of our parts sized up, thickness-wise, we're going to cut a lot of things to length. And this is all the legs, getting them all cut to final length. Then we got our aprons. We're going to cut them to final length. And this is all just to get them ready to start working on joinery, which we're going to take the easy route, and we're going to use the domino today for the joinery. Before we start joinery, we want to cut this top to size. That way, when we put everything together, we can match it up to the top and make sure it looks correct. A little detail I decided to add was tapers on the legs. So I'm throwing together a quick jig here, and this isn't anything fancy. I'm only going to do these once. So I just throw it together with pieces of plywood. So you just want to make sure that you have a good flat reference on the base of the jig and against the side of the jig. And that way your tapers all end up really nice and clean and on the correct side. And now we're clicking the easy mode button. We're just going to use the domino to throw all this together. So I could have gone through and done, you know, mortise and tenon joinery and gotten really fancy with it. But to be totally honest, nobody's going to know the difference. This is a project for me, for my daughter, and I just wanted to get it together quickly. I wanted to put my focus on the real pretty details in other areas. So the domino is really where to go on this one. It's, you know, the easy answer. And in all that chaos of, you know, running that domino over everything, I cut a couple extra that I didn't need to. So here I am doing a quick little fix. So I measured it with my calipers, and I'm actually going to make it to where it's the edge grain that's going to be showing. So cut it to width, cut it to length, cut it to thickness, round it off, glue them in, and then I'll take this all apart and I'll, cut them down and sand and all that good stuff, and you'll never see my mistake. You would never know there was a mistake, honestly, unless you watch this video. See? Playing it down, sand it, and it disappears. So we did a quick test fit of everything, so now we take it all apart and start applying glue and put it all right back together. So kind of seems monotonous, but you know, you want to dry fit it, make sure it all fits together right, and then kind of plan your glue up from there. So we're going to glue, one half, then glue the other half, and then bring them together and, glue the rest of it together. You know what I mean. And you see, now we glue the two halves together, and yeah, let that sit overnight, and then we'll unclamp it, which is going to be a pretty quick little process, just like that. So you know when I said that I didn't want to put all my focus on mortise and tenon joinery because I was going to put my focus on the pretty parts later? Well, this is the pretty part. So I found some really nice curly maple that I'm going to make the drawers with, and then I'm even going to dovetail them, but even further, I'm going to put a walnut face on it so it looks like a blind dovetail on the front. So, but I am not really a really good hand tool woodworker, so we're going to use the bandsaw to make my dovetails. So it's kind of like a combo where I cut some with the bandsaw and then I go back and clean it up with chisels. So I'm not totally cheating, but yeah, I'm kind of cheating. But you know what? They look super clean in the end, and that's all that matters. So once we kind of get to the end and it's sanded and get a finish on it, you guys will really see what these look like, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. Now, I've seen this method of making dovetails with the bandsaw and table saw in the past, but I've never seen anybody do this. So I feel like I'm a pioneer in this aspect. But I actually created a backstop and was able to cut out most of the waste. And since I have a carbide tooth blade, I'm able to kind of drag it across that backstop and clean out the bottom of them. And it really minimized how much chiseling I had to do. I just had to clean up just the little edges there, which made it 10 times easier. Now, I know we're all excited to see those dovetails go together, but we have to still create a groove on the bottom to accept the bottom panel, which, by the way, I'm kind of phoning that one in. We're using plywood. I don't think that's really unusual, but I'm not going all traditional on this, as you can already tell. Now we are finally assembling the drawer. Everything goes together really smoothly. So we get the two dovetailed corners put together, slide in the panel, and then we put some grooves in on the back side because there's no point in dovetailing the back corners. And clamp it all together. And of course, we'll check it for square, squeeze it to square, check it for square again. Oh, and then I got visited by a little minion. That's my little girl. That's who this nightstand is for. So check it for square, squeeze it, just like that. Looks square enough for me. And let that dry overnight. You're probably thinking by now, Chris, are we done with this project yet? You got the drawer made, you got the case made. Well, we're getting close. We got to make a couple of runners for the drawer to slide on, but also I wanted to add a little something to that drawer. So earlier I said I was going to add a walnut face to it to make it look like a half-blind dovetail. Well, here we are. So I make the panel and cut it roughly to size, but I actually cut it a little bit wide. I thought I was going to use the bottom of it as the pole, and I didn't end up liking it. So I cut that off later, but I'm going to glue this walnut to the face and then clean it up and give that half-blind look without all the effort. And with all the details that I've added so far, I couldn't leave the top alone. I put a little bevel on the bottom of it, but then I actually wanted to go a little bit further and I hand plane it and give it kind of like I think it's called a thumbnail profile. So it's just a little bit of an eased edge, not something you can necessarily duplicate with a router. Maybe a little bit, but I wanted to use hand tools because I'm not good at them. So when I can do it, I try. So it ended up looking really good though. One of the last little details on this, since I didn't do the pole integrated into the face of the drawer, decided to turn one on the lathe. And, I just had a good little idea to grab a, somewhat figured piece of walnut and turn it into a very basic shape. I think I would have gone a little smaller, a little more delicate if I did this again, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. And I mean, heck, I can always take it off and make another one if I really wanted to. But I think this one turned out really nice. So it's just a nice, simple, tapered down profile. I made it to where the screw goes directly into the wood, so it installs and uninstalls exactly like a pole you'd buy from the store. So it makes it to where I could change it out later if I really wanted to. But, it's always fun to, add a lathe project or a lathe aspect into your project. Now we are going to very carefully drill a hole in our finished drawer, keeping in mind tear out and everything, attach the handle, and we are almost done. So we just got to attach the top. I decided to go with figure 8 fasteners on this one. They're super easy. I had to make a little bit of room to make sure the screws would go in and everything, but these are so simple to attach, and we're done. This thing is all put together. It looks amazing, but we still got to put a finish on it, don't we? For the finish, I am using walrus oil, and then I'm going to do their wood wax over top of it. I think if I were going to do this again, I'd do a lacquer and then put their wood wax on top of it just for a little bit sturdier finish. But this has been in her room for a few months, and it's holding up just fine. Looking really good still. So there you have it. It's in place. Look at the smile on that face. She's already put some Barbies in it. And there's the close-up of the dovetails. And I'm blown away with how well this turned out. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you on the next one.